Welcome to Grab Lives, everybody. I'm your host, John Vargas. I appreciate you for listening. And just to start off with our disclaimer, everything we say and do in this podcast platform does not reflect the views or the opinions of the City of Los Angeles Fire Department. And also, can you subscribe, and also follow Grab Lives on YouTube, Spotify, and Apple? It really helps the algorithm to help people listen to this episode. It could be a first responder struggling with some issues, or anyone who may need to hear this episode that could help them. And I've had so much feedback where someone had just listened to one episode that someone sent them, and where it came up on their feed. And so you're helping someone by doing this. So I know sometimes when you're listening to this in the car on your way to work and you just forget, just do it. It really helps out. So thank you everyone for listening. And for today's guest, I have a woman named Amanie, and she's from Vancouver, Canada. And her story is really powerful, where she overcame this diagnosis of having multiple sclerosis. So she is the owner and founder of Survival Moss, and you can look up survivalmoss.com. She talks about all her products on this website, and also how she healed herself with using basically sea moss, which has over 102 minerals inside of it. I take sea moss all the time, and she's sending me some of her products, and we're going to see what the difference is, because she has not just regular sea moss. She knows where she gets it from, and it's really a great thing to overcome thyroid function, just a mineral imbalance and chronic illness, where people are just demineralized, which is a lot of the core issue of people's disease in the body. So we talk about her story and talk about her program. She also offers, one-on-one guidance if you sign up for her program, where she can help you understand bioavailability, the fascia, how to move the body, and recultivate your awareness to how to reverse some of your symptoms. And sometimes a simple symptom and a simple diagnosis is far removed from any solution, where something simple like this could really benefit someone. So thank you everyone for listening to this podcast platform again. And this episode is a really fascinating story with Amanie. So thank you everyone. I love you. Take care.
It's time for Crab Lives.
All right, everyone, welcome. I'm here with Amanie. She is speaking from Vancouver, Canada today. And
Mhm.
Vancouver is such a cool city. But the was a weird thing about Canada is the last time I was there, I was held at the border for like 4 hours, and they were interrogating me. They thought I was a terrorist. So I was like, I had really strange experiences with Canadian borders. And
Mhm.
for some reason, the reason why that happened is I had a beard at the time, like a really pretty large. I was growing that beard out for like 6 months and working for the Forest Service in Washington State. So when I went over the border, they thought I seriously was like some Taliban type person. I don't know what the hell went on with their thinking process, but they had like a drug dog looking through my car, and then it was really weird. I never experienced something like that in my life.
They're pretty strict here. We got stopped for apples, so you can't take apples across the border. And we
Yeah,
had the whole experience too with dogs, and I'm just saying, I swear it's just for my kid. He likes apples. So it's always interesting going through these types of screenings, and yeah, you feel exposed and you're just like, oh, how is this person gonna judge me?
100%, 100%.
Mhm.
And so, I mean, I can look, I guess, Middle Eastern sometimes, but I'm Mexican. So it's like I can, or wherever I go, especially like in the city of Los Angeles, we have all these little pockets of communities like Little Armenia, or,
Mhm.
um, you know, and so it's funny how many shades of a dark featured person can be for a certain culture.
Yeah, and just everyone is so mixed now as well, so it's really hard to judge based on that, but it's so I get mixed up for so many different things, and my name is confusing, and so it's always more interesting that way.
Totally. So, I was introduced uh, to you through Brooke. And
Mhm.
Brooke McPoyle, we had her on the podcast, and I was just on her podcast recently, and we loved collaborating together. It was a fun experience. And then she was telling me about you and your story. It seemed really amazing. And I saw like you were collaborating with Human Garage. I was like, this is perfect. Like, I love Human Garage. I love their movement. And I'd love for you to just start off by talking about your company. And then if you don't mind telling your story and we'll go
Mhm.
from there.
All right, so my name is Amanie, and I'm the co-founder of Survival Moss. We do superfoods in freeze-dried form, and we really pioneered this from my healing journey with MS. And so I love being on Brooke's podcast and that space, and just really connecting with everyone who has their own journey, and we've all kind of found each other in a similar point in our life, and now we get to kind of show all of our findings. And so this business of ours really stemmed from my diagnosis with multiple sclerosis. Um, it was a very sudden onset. I was teaching in my classroom. I'm a primary kindergarten teacher, and I was working one week, and the following day I woke up paralyzed, from my abdomen down to my toes, unable to walk, was rushed to the hospital. We had multiple tests, lumbar punctures, where they take spinal fluids and they test you for a number of diseases. And to just to kind of, that's the most, I guess, the most recognized way to see if you have multiple sclerosis and certain neurological illnesses like that. And so for me, it came positive. I was paralyzed, bound to the hospital bed. I was on steroids and hydromorphines and so many different medications to help with the pain that I was feeling, loss of like nerve sensation. I just had lots of different symptoms that I was suddenly dealing with, and that was just very frightening for me. Just at the time, young mom, I have one kid, and my life just changed like that.
Great.
So, mhm. And so when I started, healing and getting out of the hospital, it took a lot of detoxing and getting off some of these medications that I had to wean off of because I just wasn't in a really good state. And I had to figure out what my long term plan was going to be in terms of my health. And so I had gone to neurologists and we'd done the just exploring the like the medical route and what options I had. And generally, what we found that it was all intravenous medications. They're similar to chemos that suppress your immunity because all of these neurological diseases that like I suffer from, or I say suffered from, they see it as your body attacking itself, and so they suppress the immune system with these medications. And for me, that was a frightening. I don't know. It was very scary for me to take that option, and so. Ooh, I don't know. Going through back through my story, it kind of like reminds me of how we got here. And so, if I get a little emotional, my apologies.
No, I love it.
Mhm.
It's awesome.
Yeah. So really wanted to see what they do out there in countries that they don't have medication for chemotherapy. They don't have these options. Like, what do those people do? And so we started just looking online, me and my husband, and seeing what options were out there. We came across Dr. Sebi, who really speaks about moss, sea moss, and the 92 essential minerals and how it's super alkalining and just all the amazing benefits that come along with sea moss. And so we started ordering it. We started ordering it just in the sun dried form. And I was learning all over again how to prepare this, how to consume it, just to get it in myself and bring myself out of that inflammation because I had extreme inflammation in my brain with lesions and in my spinal cord. So
Hmm.
that's what caused the nerve damage down my spine, the paralysis, the loss of sensation, and any weird nerve pain I would suffer from. It was a really weird, scary experience that it was about 6 to 8 months I was in and out of acute care in the hospital, completely hooked up, IVs, all of that, and, so there was a period of 6 months where I was just really trying to get back on my feet, standing up, grasping onto walls to walk, and during that time, I was introducing the CMOS and really getting that alkaline, maybe my body must have been very acidic at the time, very dehydrated. And we started learning the importance of mineralization, hydration, and movement, and that stagnation within the body. And I started feeling that physically. And as I started progressing, I really found that this beautiful plant was working for me. And here I am. 2019 was my episode. And so I've been in remission since then. And I've been just managing using these superfoods, and survival monks only carries superfoods that I use during my healing journey. So nothing that we don't stand by. We have like our shaga, which is just wild foraged mushrooms that we teach people how to make into a tea. And so I'm just kind of like showcasing some of the different things we offer, and all of these things targeted different symptoms that I was struggling with. So I wanted to get more antioxidants in me. So, and I wanted it in food form that was bioavailable that I can absorb. I was having a hard time absorbing like pills and capsules and other things, especially after my hospital stay. And yeah, and so we just have three products. We have sea moss in multiple colors, chaga mushroom, and lion's mane.
I've used lion's mane. It was really helpful because I was dealing with issues with my nervous system, going through brain trauma stuff. So I definitely feel you with a dysregulated nervous system or something going on with the nervous system. It's very unraveling, and it's an
Mhm,
upheaval because it seems as if there's something in separation within your physical form, and you can't quite explain it. So there's the various
mhm,
symptoms and experiences you're having are tenfold, and it's individually titrated to each person when you're experiencing something like that. So on top of that, like, on the podcast, usually we don't have many doctors that come on. We have a lot of
mhm,
people talking about their personal experience with healing and how that journey manifested for themselves. So I think at this point in time, humans are so thirsty and striving for past the scientific method, past what Western medicine has done for us for a very long time, and not to demonize what they've done.
mhm,
However, there's something beyond that that's exploding right now and resurrecting within what is health and what offers that for us. And we're coming back to like breaking down everything that does not work. It's being
mhm,
exposed at this time, especially after 2020. And
mhm,
we're realizing, like, as a collective of consciousness, as human beings, we're realizing what's most important and what's effective. So your story is one of many where someone has, gone through this deep dark hole within themselves and they're able to find their healing path to help other people with whether it's supplements, whether it's movement, or whether you combine everything together. And it takes a lot of courage to go through something like you did. And I'm in your shoes as well when you're so frustrated with all the dead ends of the diagnosis, and you're getting seeing all these doctors, you're getting probed like this, like like a mannequin, and you're not getting any answers, which is really, really depressing. And I think mentally we work through that, and there is a imprint upon us when we work through that process. And I
mhm,
had a really good friend who was helping me with my body, and he told me, it doesn't really matter how you got here; it matters how you uh, overcome it and rectify it. So for us, like, we're on the other side of this hump. It's about speaking our voices and having this connection with each other on how we heal and how we can um, expose some of the things that helped us and the things that didn't work, because it's like really a process of elimination. You know what I mean?
Mhm. No, you're 100% right, and I agree with you in the sense that, the conventional or immediate emergency care is sometimes really needed, and I have a huge respect for nurses. My mom was a pediatric nurse, and so I grew up, very much so in the medical system. And even my episode, I had taken all the medication that was recommended. But then it just came to a point where it wasn't sustainable longer term as I was then suffering from other symptoms and just a few other things. And so really turning back into nature was empowering. Like you said, it's very empowering for someone to be able to find answers that work for them. And then the knowledge, the thirst for more knowledge and how to kind of progress that much quicker than you would normally. And for me, that mindset and positive thinking and really just fake it till you make it attitude had to come in because I was in depression. I was prescribed medications to, support my mood because I was paralyzed. And so, what does someone do with that the next day? And it took me months to really process it. And so, it was quite the journey, and it takes resilience and perseverance. And some days you may not believe in it, but you really just got to fall back on what's the mission? What's the goal here? And it does take a lot of courage.
Yeah, and just think about too, like you're in the minority of someone who was trying to find other measures to heal, right, through a point of desperation, when there are many others in the population that they just follow what the doctor says and they just listen and they believe everything they're saying and they trust it and they're still stuck in the same rut. And then you're just on top of a pile of prescriptions or a bible of prescriptions that you're dealt with, and which maybe are even hurting you further from healing yourself. Like even when you're prescribed SSRIs, it's just you're going to block a component with yourself to actually heal the nervous system, and it just it's a sad paradigm. But I like I was saying earlier, we're breaking past that, and to see like what is possible for
Mhm.
our carbon makeup that is not finite. It's extremely well versed. It's not a machine. It's a
Mhm.
biological organism computer. And if
Mhm.
we rid our body of filth and toxic waste, our body is capable of healing itself. And I know like well something that Gary had said within Human Garage, it's like um like if we get our body out of stress and we get our body into a state where we can finally heal again, let the body do what it needs to do. And it's a kind of this relationship with establishing trust with the body once again, which I think, in my opinion, like once I started to integrate trust within my life, things started just completely changing. Because trust has been referred to as the key to the universe, and your body just calling to
Surrendering,
you.
yeah, when
Yeah.
you surrender, and there's something really powerful in being able to surrender, and then adapt or just go with the flow. And then you find yourself that you didn't get sucked into the storm. You float to the surface, and you're like, oh, okay, I made it through this. And so it's really amazing that
Talk a
we're
little bit
humbled.
more about that word surrender. That's a really hard one for people to hear. And I think it's because there's a lot of ignorance surrounding what that word means.
For me, it really just meant I was in a state where I was trying to gain control of everything that I possibly could as I was losing control of everything that I knew. And being able to just like sit in that state and you can't physically run away from it. So that was the hardest thing for me is that, my tendency was keep busy, distract myself. And but then I would have this fall and that would wake me back up or it would ask me to pay attention somewhere
Mm.
where I'm not and I have no other option but to. And so I felt it. I surrendered to the emotions of everything I was experiencing from the frustration, the hurt, the anger, the did my body fail me? What do I do now? But then even though what do I do now, I always, growing up, I was such a like a dreamer child. And so you watch these shows like Matilda, you see these kids that will just find little crafty ways and they make it out. And so I was of that generation where I would hold on to some hope, and I would really just, my inner child, I had to give my inner child that attention, because I don't think we even believed in that from my upbringing or what I knew. Trauma, holding it in the body, like, what is that? You're learning French immersion, you don't have time, you're taking on languages right now. Figure out if it's he, her, they, she, like, you're trying to figure out the pronouns in your language, right? And so it was really, now as an adult, I'm realizing, wow, trauma, being held in the body, we're manifesting these illnesses that are telling us exactly what is wrong with us, and we're not listening. And so that opened up that world for me.
Yeah, I think, you know, everything you said is so well put. I love hearing people's own perspective and language and narrative around surrender because it's a really hard thing to grasp. But when you're in like some type of desperation, like I mentioned earlier, you experience surrender. And there's this fine communication with what that is. And it's a relationship to that's a really I think it's a skill to understand surrender, and it's the understanding of like releasing control. Because if you're holding on to something with your grip, that's hurting you, and then if you a lot of times it takes people finger by finger with that grip to let go because we don't fully trust, and it's always teaching us just to give it some time, some patience, some perspective shifts. But if we fully let go, I think that can be also damaging for people. But I think people also understand, like, who've gone down their healing journeys when they completely just released control. That was the moment of transformation, an instant transformation. I mean, there's a the ancient story of the Bodhisattva where he like was in 7 years within the forest as a sage and was like meditating and trying to figure out enlightenment, and it came down to a point where he surrendered and he just let go of the universe, and that was his point of enlightenment. And Satori, what they call like instant enlightenment, because if you have this release of control. And so it's a really interesting dynamic of how we place these fixed expectations on how we view life, and it's not in accordance to what the universe is operating with. It's a complete mismanifestation of how we perceive our reality. And so once we start to integrate an idea like surrender, it's not like you're just laying down and letting life just run you over. It's actually
Mhm.
laying down and letting life pick you up and levitate you across all your problems and all of your trauma. But it takes a deep sense of suffering sometimes for us to reach that point.
Yeah, just to bring that awareness to you. I think we think that we're aware, but it brings another level of awareness, because you're forced to face something that you probably wouldn't have wanted to face unless you're really forced to be in that position. And for me, I would have never imagined not being able to, get up and do my day-to-day routine. And it really did help me for a year, over a year. It's not like I just started walking. It was like being a baby all over again and learning how to take my first steps. Um, and so it was like a starting over, almost, it felt like. But also that idea of striving to where I was. I would go to doctors and they would say, don't expect 100% recovery. Like, you will possibly have remnants of that symptom for the rest of your life. And everything started to irritate me more and more. And so I just wanted to just fix it, fix my body. And that teacher in me that wants structure and control and all that stuff was trying to force things in an unnatural way at the beginning. And it wasn't until stripping things down and losing a lot of things and then regaining things. Like I really couldn't eat anything after my hospital stay. couldn't tolerate anything. I was very unwell. And so I really had to introduce foods back into my diet and just everything all over again. So that was very humbling. Shows you to not take life for granted. I think we are very a sedated society where we're numbed by these medications and they surrender in the sense that they just don't do it, want to do anything about it because they give that trust into the professionals that tell them, like I had heard, you may not walk again. You may not get fully recovered. And so that really sets your mindset for that kind of counter productive for someone who wants to heal.
Yeah, I get that, but you just like say you don't take no for an answer, and that's what's really amazing when we take things into our own ways and our own path. And I think for at a soul level, like our souls just want us to feel this human experience. And that's the very thing that we're running away from is feeling and to feel
Mhm,
emotions and to feel the what we deem bad, like these anger, rage, hate, and sorrow. Like those things hurt. Paranoia. Like I've been through all those emotions, all of them. And
mhm,
I'd always tell people like I'm not always coming on and speaking when I speak to other people or I help other people. Like I don't have this ultimate poise, but I gave myself the opportunity to finally feel. And that's when that was like what the transformation with myself, because feeling is dealing and dealing is healing when you actually start to feel. So it's like a
mhm,
very strange dynamic when we always want a quick fix in the Western world. It doesn't
mhm.
work that way. It takes time and a relationship and reconnecting ourselves. And I think I think it's great to see how something like Irish sea moss, or is it Irish just sea moss? Let's
Yeah,
say sea
CMOS.
moss,
Mhm,
because I've noticed with minerals in particular that minerals are one of the foundational things in relation to the nervous system, which is another foundational aspect to the human organism because it's a carrier of information from our system. And this is coming from someone who had traumatic brain injury, who had, back injuries, who've had nerve issues. And I know what it feels like when you have nerve issues and it's very unsettling. And but what I had understood was that this carrying of information from the nervous system, it gave me this newfound respect for the nervous system and understanding dysregulation versus regulation.
mhm,
And coming from a career of, for a population of people who are in service to others who have a dysregulated nervous system and don't know that they have a dysregulated nervous system and having like disassociative states where you're never in your body and having these moments to where you're so revved up with your RPMs of your nervous system that you can't even feel anymore.
mhm,
And that's what I've noticed, in regards to the nervous system and that dysfunction that happens, like when you have pain in your body because you're not getting that firing off of neurons, or that information finally reaching the peripheral nervous system. It's just a strange dynamic, but it's not really well talked about.
mhm. No, and, like, we have a few mentors that will say the issues are in your tissues, and I always laugh when I hear it because it's so true, and it maybe sounded a little bit woo-woo back in the day, like, how much of our emotions can really be held within our body, but then it makes perfect sense, and then learning further about the fascia, which was so foreign to, like, what was that even a few years ago? And then now understanding the depth and just really it is all interconnected. And when you do apply a more holistic approach, and in my opinion, like you are taking care of your waters, you're taking care of your movement, you're breathing, learning how to breathe again was also for me because I realized I was holding my breath during the day when I'm working. I'm just tensing up and I'm holding my breath. I'm not even breathing, and that's should be natural to us. And so now that we have this education on breath work and the length of your breath and holding it in, it really just takes things to another level. The
Have-
mindfulness.
So, do you do the stress reset, the human garage stress reset like every day, or how do you integrate human garage into your daily practice if you do?
Yeah, I have some of my favorite maneuvers. Like I really do like the organ, all the autoimmune gut ones. I find myself just naturally doing it in my day to day. Like I may not be in the full position, but I just really do love the teachings that they would associate with the organs. And I just became more in tune with my liver and the anger that I'm carrying, or being more having more grace with myself. I realize I'm very difficult on myself. I'm difficult on people around me because the expectations are so high. And so being more mindful of how our body carries it and then just giving it that attention was also just a really nice tool for me to gain. And so you'll find me doing different things throughout the day, and it's just kind of what feels right in the moment.
Yeah, the stress reset was an amazing practice for myself and my wife. Like we started off going to I think it was like a conference, a human garage conference, and then we were hooked. You know, just going through the stress reset every day, and it became a very a big anchor for us energetically. And I think it started to bring up even more patterns and emotions for us as we continue. I think we did it up for like 2 years straight.
Um,
And every day we would do like, hey, let's go do human garage in the backyard, and we would work on each other. What was amazing is after we started working on human garage, I just do the basic stress reset, 15 minutes. We started working on each other, you know, doing that belly button torque on each other. And
mhm,
so I got really good at it to where I started to work on other people. So we'll hold human garage kind of events at our home and our other places. And
mhm,
it seems to be a very powerful practice. And now I feel like I've wrung out my body like a towel, kind of like Gary says, to where I can work on someone and I could immediately read the information that's going on in someone's body. So saying
mhm,
those affirmations for someone, it's an amazing experience when I'm in there and I can know exactly what this person's holding in that part of their body, and they have this, you know, emotional release, and it seems to be so transformational where we hold so much in our bodies. And I think if we give ourselves that grace like you had mentioned, we have the opportunity to transform it, you know, because nothing is neither created nor destroyed. We transform things, and if we transform things with human emotion of the things we're carrying inside, we feel like refreshed and new. And it's just these cycles that continue to evolve constantly. And when we allow ourselves to go through these small little death and rebirth cycles, you know, we can get out of our own way and finally heal and feel whole again. Because there's really nothing
mhm,
wrong with us. It's just that we have to learn how to restructure what we see as healing and how we walk this path. You know what I mean?
mhm. It's so a book that I was reading that really introduced this like mind body soul connection is was written by, I believe it's Dolores Cannon's niece, and she was a nurse, and then Dolores Cannon did hypnotherapy, and they would talk about many cases of people that would hold trauma in their body, and they would express it in certain illnesses. And I would look up what MS was, and so
Yeah.
MS was tied to similar to cancers, where it's control, holding grief, being very angry towards oneself, like disappointed. And there was so many emotions that are connected with certain illnesses, and it really brought that into perspective to me. It really allowed me to kind of assess my life and kind of things that were sitting on me for longer than I actually really thought or knew. And so I really recommend Soul Speaks if someone is interested in something like that. It's a great book to just help you assess your symptoms that you're feeling in your body and what types of emotions they're stemmed from. So, like we hear, the lungs hold grief and sadness, and the liver holds anger, and so it just really does allow you to connect more with your emotions and see what body parts need extra love. And so that was always fun for me to read into.
Yeah, the metaphysics are a huge part in how we heal. And I think when we think that this subtle world that we don't see doesn't exist out of our own ignorance. And but when you actually look into it, it makes so much sense. And I've been a big student of Chinese medicine for a good amount of years now, and it's really fascinating when the organs are holding a lot of contextual information for how the body operates. And what I really love when I bring this up is they never introduced the brain as part of the organ system and the elemental
Mhm.
system of Chinese medicine. Why is that? And they believe that the organs are actually more intelligent than the brain is. And I've listened to other people who have fasted for a very long time. Like there was a person who fasted for 4 years, some
Wow.
Russian maniac, and
Mhm.
he came down to the point saying like, yeah, the brain is not intelligent. It's actually our organs. He said once I stopped eating, each individual organ was leveling up its own dimensional field to its highest capacity. So he was being able to understand what each organ was doing, and on top of that, he was able to operate off different dimensional fields all at once because he was not eating.
Wow.
It's like extreme, right? And
Yeah.
on top of that too, like I love Dolores Cannon. I've read all 5 of the Convoluted Universe books,
Okay.
so I'm very well educated on who Dolores Cannon
Okay.
is. And if anyone else doesn't know who Dolores Cannon is, she is this. I kind of like a long story short. She's a woman who does past life regressions, and she
Mhm.
passed away a few years ago, maybe like a decade ago now. And so she started off doing these guided hypnotic treatments for people at a naval base. I'm pretty sure
Wow.
it's a naval base. It was at least some type of military base where her husband was working, and she started helping people with hypnosis for weight loss. So she was helping
Um,
a woman who was overweight with weight loss with hypnosis, and she put her in a deep theta wavelength state, and she put her into a past life. So when this happened, all the everyone at the military base heard about it and was listening in because she was in this extreme trance state, and she was explaining her past life. And when she found out that she was actually in this past life, she was starving, and she was in this life. She carried that karma over into the template of who she was, and that's why she was overweight. And fascinating enough, like fast forward from that moment, her husband had a really bad car accident and was a paraplegic, and then she started doing past life regressions once he died, which was years later. And she started messing with it, and then she realized what she was doing. She was basically accessing basically the source code of each individual person at a soul level and having them work through like issues through past life experiences.
Wow. Well, I was so glad you can touch more on Dolores Cannon because I didn't know all of that, but I was always just really intrigued by her work and her nieces or her relatives' work that would really showcase a lot of her findings as well. And it was just another world for me to explore. And I know it's very out there for a lot of people still, but when you see how the body does hold things, it just makes you wonder, like, what else is possible? Like, it's amazing how that's so true.
Have you had a past life regression done on you?
No, no, so I haven't explored the past life yet, but I'm sure there's something interesting there.
Yeah, I've done it a few times, and through my own experience, it was like a medicine journey. Like it
Mm,
was like as if I can see you right here on this screen right now. It was, and I was in a
yeah,
deep theta wavelength state, and I could just experience something, and it was bizarre. But at the same time, I was grasping certain experiences, and even sometimes, this essentially your soul will choose an experience for you to have and experience that's essential to your evolution of yourself. And so sometimes I didn't actually go into a past life experience. I actually would experience something in my life that I needed to see. And one of
mm,
those experiences was when I was like 13, I had my heart broken for my first time. And it gave me this experience where I had that. And then I was like, I cried in like the bathroom. My friends are making fun of me. And I had so much shame and guilt around emotions and around heartbreak. And so I carried this guard around myself for years around my heart to not open myself up in relationships. And so it basically gave me this reclamation of letting that guard down around my heart. And it was a really amazing experience. But like it really is if anyone look up any type of past life experience professional, and it is definitely life changing. I think it's really helpful for people to see what's hiding in the subconscious,
Mhm.
especially as someone who is averse to psychedelic therapy or anything like that, because you're not taking anything. You're just
Mhm.
accessing the database of your hard drive essentially. And I think this really challenges people who are religious and or very like Protestant Christian, because I think it's witchcraft, when that's really getting in the way of your own healing and understanding like what we're actually capable of.
Mhm. Yeah, no, I think it's just being more in tune with yourself. It's really just listening to your body, and I know it seems like witchcraft, but the more you listen, the more you're pleasantly surprised with the solutions are you're able to find your own solutions, and sometimes they're much simpler than, the worst of the worst that our mind sometimes will go there. Um, but everyone has to come at that point and be ready themselves, because I find myself almost preaching and really pushing these types of beliefs on people that don't understand yet, or they don't see the vision. And so it's nice for people to come to it on their own, because they're experiencing something, and it's always just more natural, that finding.
Oh, absolutely. I totally
Mhm.
agree. I've never been like a because I grew up in a very like cultish Protestant Christian family, and the church I went through to, like I never like want to be dogmatic and like, hey, this is the way, this is the only way. However, it's extremely fascinating when we're just talking about something that is out there, that is non-conventional, and I think it can be a helpful tool. And in the end, like I think these are all tools. There's never one right answer for everyone. But the one thing I do really respect is the CMOS. Like minerals is something that is completely objective, to where it's gonna help you no matter what. And I
Yeah.
think for myself, it helped me because I have a lot of tattoos, and so just going through a detoxification of my tattoos requires extra minerals. So I need
Mhm.
to just dump a lot of minerals in my system so I can just piss out these like heavy metals.
Yeah, so CMOS is a great detox excreter, great for mucus that's stagnant within the body. I found that it was very helpful for me just to get the joint pain. I had multiple places of inflammation along my spine, and so getting the extra minerals allowed for better absorption of the hydration that I was consuming. It really just kind of gave me that lubrication, just that with those joints that were really in pain and stiff and kind of like fixed, because of I was in a wheelchair. And so when I was in a wheelchair, I was kind of like not moving my body in natural ways that I normally would. And so I had lots of stiffness and tenseness in my body. And so that's when I was like eating. We have these fresh jars for our locals, but essentially our freeze dried bag is 1 jar's worth freeze dried into a powder. And I was eating this throughout the week. I would maybe consume a jar's worth a week. Like that's how much I was taking therapeutically to get my body out of inflammation and just to keep it at bay. And that really supported the collagen production as well, and allowed for better movement, less pain, less stiffness. And then, of course, when I talk about my MS journey, I talk about all the nerve pain and the lesions in my brain. And so, like you said, for mood, for nerve sensations, we really love our lion's mane, and we offer them in our freeze dried as well. And so, one of them is maybe I'll show it a little bit better. It's lion's mane, 2 full pounds of lion's mane. So the back of the bag will show you what you're getting. No other ingredients, just lion's mane powder. You can add it to any food or beverage. And then we have our autoimmune blend, which is sea moss and lion's mane 1-to-1 ratio. And what we do is we take the gourmet mushroom. So I always, if you check out our Instagram, I'll always show our grade A gourmet mushrooms that we pick up. We have a cultivator that will make a huge production for us. We take it straight to our facility, our freeze drying facility, and then we have this nice finished powder. And so we're not using low grade mushrooms that are browning or already in that molding process. We're using like freshly picked mushrooms. And so we really pride ourselves on the quality of superfoods that we gather, because we are giving it to people who are autoimmune, very sensitive cases. And so we make sure that we don't sacrifice on the quality. And so we also offer, you had mentioned detoxing. We have different colored sea moss. And so we have the green sea moss, which is great because it has chlorella. So great for extra detoxing the heavy metals in the brain. And then we offer the purple, which is higher in phytonutrients, great for inflammation. A lot of people who have cancer will always tend to the purple just for the extra phytonutrients. And then shaga, which I love. I like to make myself like a chai, like a Starbucks at home chai tea shaga. And basically, we sell these chunks of mushroom that are foraged from northern BC, so from our forests, just off of birch trees. And we give you chunks of these, teach you how to make it into a nice tea to get extra antioxidants in, to support the flow, the nervous system. It's very calming. I think it's just really great for the nervous system. It gives you a little bit of energy, but no like caffeine dip. So very nice to enjoy in the morning or in the evening. And those are just the products that I took with my MS healing. And that's really paired with, mindset, positive thinking. I did a lot of visualization and learning from Dr. Joe Dispenza with how he healed his spine. And so for me, I just really connected to that story. And you would find me at home just laying on my mattress and just visualizing myself being able to walk again. And
Hmm.
whether it was giving myself the tools of hydration, antioxidants, the nerve regeneration, and then really just believing that I will walk again, I will run again, gonna have another kid. Like life is not stopping for me here, and really believing it is what got me here.
Yeah, I think beliefs are extremely powerful with everything
Mhm.
else. Like I always tell people too, like stacking your treatments is essential on a healing journey, especially when you're dealing with something really difficult. Because like if you're gonna extend your reach with healing when you're gonna just not trust just one thing, you're gonna add multiple things all at once, and you have to detox the body at some point. And
Mhm.
you know, but going down to the core of your beliefs is so essential. And because what a lot of us, what is in the way of our healing is our inability to believe that we can heal, or believe or get past certain belief systems that are just not true. And a
Mhm.
lot of times that's really what's running the course of our lives, or is the power of belief. And how can we extend ourselves past the power of belief and or understand what belief is. And it takes a lot of inner work to just excavate your belief systems that are supporting your life. And when you can challenge belief systems. And so, like, that's the biggest thing that we have to look at. And I think for me, I had a hard time because I was programmed at such a young age with a lot of guilt, sin, and a lot of shame around so much shame and fear. And so, most of my programming comes from all that. Like, I've been raised that way. So, I had to go back in time and restructure my way around like trust and beliefs, and this giving the acknowledgement of that part of myself that it's okay to make mistakes. And, and that was one of my biggest things is making mistakes. I would shame myself, for making mistakes because of years of the way I believed life to be. And I think just giving a contextual information around beliefs is extremely helpful tool for people because it gives someone an opportunity to look at themselves and be like, "Hey, man, what do I believe in really, and what have I made an unconscious agreement with?" Because that's essentially what beliefs are. They're agreements that we make on reality, and if it doesn't match up with what reality is, it can harm us.
Mm,
And so, and this is coming from my own personal experience with my mother. I believed my mother to be this person that I always wanted her to be, and she's not matching that reality that I created. And so that harmed me, at a grief level. And so I think that's just a good example, and that's just coming from my own inner work that I've done on myself, where it's just devastating sometimes when we realize these are what our imagination is creating, and we have to just reaffirm ourselves what reality is sometimes, because when it actually strikes us and slaps us in the face, it sometimes it does it through illness, disease, and injury, and that gives us an opportunity to like hit a standstill within our life, recalibrate everything, and reassess. And people forget and miss how to reassess your consciousness. And I think that's really a good standpoint for people. And I always tell friends who I'm helping is like, ask yourself this simple question: who are you? Do you know? And that question will challenge you at the core of your being, because you start creating these masks that we wear, or these identities that we have created with
mm,
ourselves. Like, I am this, I am that, I'm a good dad, I'm a good husband. Okay, but is that who you are? And
mhm,
these are not philosophical, they're just simple questions to actually excavate your reality into this plane of existence that is within the template of operation within harmony. And that is really where healing starts to dissolve these falsifications. And if we can get ourselves into a conscious state, now we can detox the body, we can rewire the nervous system, and do all these things at a phenomenal level.
mhm. I think what you just said is that's like the emotional surrendering to the process. Sorry, no, no, I'm gonna cough.
I cough, you
It's the
cough.
it's the surrendering to the process, right? We're
Yeah.
releasing. That's a release. Um, but yeah, it's really surrendering to the emotional process of it, really stripping yourself back and letting go of these identity traits that we grasp onto because we see ourselves as that's a piece of us. And for me, I had to really break down those walls and those structures that I had built up for self protection. But then I realized it was more harming me, limiting beliefs, and it's just so empowering when you tell yourself, well, maybe I don't have to be the one to prejudge the situation. Let's just see how it unfolds. I was always like guessing the outcome and everything that was happening, and I think that was so counterproductive or intuitive because you know the power of the brain, you know that you're rewiring your future with your own beliefs. And so if you're always anticipating the worst or you're so fearful, like I was, um, so yeah, we carry that with our days.
Yeah, we have this tendency to protect ourselves, like from hurt, past experiences in our life that run this necessity to protect our hearts, to guard ourselves. So I'm very curious sometimes, if you don't mind me asking, like, why do you think you needed to protect yourself?
Um, I think it was all maybe self-esteem. It was more having more trust in myself. I always needed something to hold me ground down, but then once you start to go through the pain on your own and having to find the answers on your own, because no matter how much people brought things to you or suggestions, it was really you had to, at the end of the day, do the work involved. And as I kept facing circumstances and being forced to be alone, I started gaining more confidence. I think it's more self love. It all comes down to a lot of different things. I guess upbringing, childhood, uh, emotions that I was a performer. I always felt like I had to prove something by achieving by my achievements, and so that may have had something to do with it. I feel like the more I learn, the more I discover different parts of me that could have could have impacted that.
There's so many layers to it. That's why I love asking that question because it helps. I think all of us carry this pattern of wanting to protect ourselves from hurt. You know, it's
Mhm,
normal. It's a normal survival mechanism. And I
mhm,
think when we get out of survival finally, it's a very unique space to be in. It's foreign to us, and it's vulnerable and it's
yeah,
challenging to us. It's almost as if we are addicted to the suffering and the survival mechanism. But what emerges is like this unarmored truth once the armor falls. And once we're in that space, you can never go back to having
mhm,
that armor up again because you feel that through the emergence of some type of illness, disease, or injury, you rediscover like the template of that survival mechanism doesn't work forever. It's a
yeah,
temporary survival piece that we carry as human species. As a human species, we just have naturally just figured this out to do at an unconscious level. And for people who do realize like they don't have to be in survival, and we're like, holy shit, like this is what life is like. And I think there's parts inside of us that resist that piece, of being in a safe body and a safe consciousness. And I think sometimes there's a rebound effect where the voice in our head starts alerting you over and over like this something's wrong, something's wrong. It's because you're in a foreign land once again of feeling safe.
mhm,
People live their whole lives never feeling safe in their body, never feeling safe in their environment. And when you can provide a space for that for someone to feel that once again, I mean, you watch people just transform immediately, and that's why I really loved Human Garage because it does allow someone to finally feel regulated within their nervous system. They're finally in their body and they feel safe again, and that's
mhm,
when healing comes. And I think I had went to a couple different conferences with Gary, and Gary actually worked on my body one time, and it was a really surrendering experience because he is a kind of aggressive. He put me up in like a in the what is it called, the hip release, and I don't know if you've ever done that maneuver, but it's
mhm,
like you're in a pretzel,
yeah,
and he just like pushed his body and of me into a ball, and there was like four other people holding my head, my arms,
mhm,
and the power of connection with that, and the surrender, and me being in like this semi pretzeled fetal position was transformative. You know what I mean? I had to like let
mhm,
it go, and just cried for like 20 minutes. And I just in those states, when we fully let go, that is bliss, when we give ourselves that opportunity.
yeah. It's really cool to watch and be a part of, and I've had Gary do some work on me as well, and I've also been able to watch just from as a viewer and the transformations that people experience from touch or, just from saying these affirmations out loud, from really addressing the body finally again after ignoring it and not realizing that our emotions are stored in our bodies. So I think that is just so powerful, and I always love seeing it. Whenever I'm there, there's always so many tears and everyone gaining something from it, whether it's just the energy, um, different releases. Like sometimes you're working on someone that you need to heal something within yourself. And it's just such a powerful thing because you're like, wow, you both got to experience something that you'll never be able to explain to someone else. um, so it's really amazing that work, and I think it's important for us to be curious and try it out and see for ourselves because you never know.
Yeah, so I think the lion's mane, for everyone who doesn't understand, lion's mane works really well with like a lot of brain fog, a lot of like issues going on within your cognitive structure.
Mhm,
And that was one of my favorites for a very long time. And I would drink it with my coffee. And because you don't get the coffee crash as
mhm,
much when you drink lion's mane with your coffee, which I really liked. And it's a great modulation to, something that you want to an intake, because I firemen always drink coffee, or firefighters always
mhm,
drink coffee, and it's just like a little bit of lion's mane will go a long way with
mhm,
a focus, like really good focus. And we have to go to work and have that focus and that attention span where you got to make sure you're not getting distracted when you're in the zone, if that makes sense. But it's one of my favorites, absolutely. And I was eating, I think it was called True Moss.
mhm,
I don't know if you know that product. It's like the
mhm,
jelly type one. I'm not sure,
mhm,
but I like how you have certain products that you know where you're getting your product from, and
mhm,
you absolutely know 100% like how it's created. So I think that's helpful for people when they hear where it's coming from, how it's manufactured. Because I think most of these supplements are bullshit because of how they're manufactured, where they're coming from. And people get stuck
mhm.
these becoming suckers for salesmen on these like Instagram ads.
Yeah.
And I'm always a big fan of the farmers market, organic business owners who are trying to push
Mhm.
things, especially through someone who's gone through their own healing.
Yeah. Well, it's really important to touch that sea moss is you could find sea moss in abundance. They farm sea moss. There's pool grown sea moss. There's all along the coastline of Indonesia, Vietnam. You could find sea moss everywhere. And they're all similar breeds, carry similar mineral content. But the most important thing that I want to stress is we source our sea moss from St. Lucia. We love the environment. I've been using this sea moss since the beginning of my healing. It's the one that I've trusted and used for my children. And so that's the sea moss that we carry. It's the gold. It's a little bit difficult to see, but it's the gold moss and it's tasteless, odorless. And what we do is we aren't just grinding it up from the sun dried state. I think it's important to mention this because a lot of capsules or powders out there that say sea moss, they are taken sun dried and then ground up into a powder and then you consume it. And so, what the problem with this is that it's not bioavailable. It's really hard for your body to now um, give moisture to then rehydrate it for your body to then absorb it. And so what we do is that we get the moss sun dried, we convert it into a gel, clean filtered water. We use no preservative, so it's only a single ingredient, and then it goes straight into the freeze drying machine that vacuums out all of the moisture. It retains like 99% of the nutrition, and you can add it to any food or beverage. It's bioavailable because you're consuming it from the rehydrate or the gel form. And so once you rehydrate it into whatever you're eating, you're getting it in the purest form. And so we really love adding this to any like yogurts or oatmeals, coffee, tea. Coffee can be very mineral depleting. And so if you get
Mhm.
this in, it'll kind of help balance out, get some extra minerals in there. And it's that one's tasteless. The ones that are colored do have a little bit of a nori flavor for those who are wondering. However, they have the 92 minerals along with those, the chlorella with the phytonutrients. The lion's mane, which I love too, is that we really even our supplier will say, you're turning it into a powder. Why don't you get little blemished mushrooms? And so I pick out my mushrooms and I look at them and I inspect them one by one because of how obsessed I've become with mushrooms and their benefits and the way it helped me with all my nerve pain and my brain. If I go get MRIs now, the lesions that were really dark spots in my brain are not there, or they're tiny little scars that are disappearing. And so it's really cool to see in my screenings the benefits that I feel. And so my neurologist will say, "Oh, my miracle patient is here." And so I feel like I'm doing something right with the hydration, with the nerve support, and the antioxidants that we offer, and being able to give it to people in a freeze dried form is just really cool because I never had access to this when I was healing. I was taking it in the gel form.
Yeah, I had a really good friend. He's pretty much an expert on some of like the neurological diseases and in general the whole body. And he was telling me that MS it's a heavy metal toxicity. So a lot of people don't realize that some people can't excrete heavy metals as much as other people, and he can reverse MS for someone by getting the heavy metals out of their system. He'll pump someone with ozone therapy,
Oh,
which has been
wow.
really helpful. And ozone's a really interesting thing because it gets out a lot of microplastics from the body, and it
Mhm.
also will pump out a lot of infections in the system. And like people don't realize they have like sometimes they have staph infections in their gut, or they have some type of like Lyme's disease they never thought they had, which was myself. And the ozone just pumps everything out of the system. And if you look up ozone and you Google it, it'll say FDA not approved, and like that's it. So usually I always tell people like if you Google something and it says something like that, there's no like research available to support this. That means it's actually helping people.
It's helping people.
Yeah,
Yeah.
but
Yeah, ozone like I've done hyperbaric chamber, and it's really those are really great tools to do. I've done cleanses, of course. I go down the parasite world too with my recent diagnosis. And so it's really great to just look at different options. And that's where we learned about, the parasitic infections that could take place in the body and how eggs can burrow, and just really supporting the body to excrete it and fix the terrain so that you can, like you said, take the heavy metals out so that you don't have parasites, because really they're all working together to address the problem, is my belief. And so I like foods. Like when I do detoxes, I always resort to foods that support those pathways. So I like the dandelion roots. Right now I'm into dandelion. So I'm making just fresh salads out of dandelion leaves. Um, but I really like foods like cloves and just things that really help the detoxing of whether it's parasites or heavy metals, microplastics. Like there's so many different toxins that we're exposed to. So we almost have to be on top of it just to keep our body at level.
it's kind of sad how that's how we have to live.
Mhm.
And at some point I stopped being hyper vigilant around like the things I ate as much, but I think I just gained a newfounded relationship with what I'm consuming and having a conscious relationship with that instead of beating myself with a stick about it, if that makes sense. Because
Mhm.
it can feel like that at some point, and I don't want to live my life in that state. I think it's just having generalized exposure to information and educating yourself with it. I think the CMOS is like a catch all with a lot of the detoxification. That's why I tell people to always take CMOS because it's so helpful, and especially
Mhm.
for someone who's working a high stress job like being a police officer, or you're in the military, or you're a firefighter. Like stress requires extra mineralization because like high cortisol levels require more energy and more of like that high voltage running through your system for you to actually do your thing. And if you're just revved up with RPMs, then you need that mineralization because it does support the nervous system and it will support your ability to absorb nutrients. And so
And
your
the lungs. So
and
for
the lung,
people,
that's right, and the
yeah.
lungs as well. And
Mhm.
I had we were doing construction at my station, like redoing the whole entire upstairs, and we ripped out the carpet, and like these contractors came in like, "Oh, you guys had asbestos in here." We're like,
Mhm.
"Okay." That's why I was coughing for like 2 weeks, and I was like wheezing at night, and I was like, I never wheeze, but the sea
Mhm.
moss actually helped me cough up all that shit that was in my body. It was
Yeah.
just detoxing my lungs. So I'm glad you brought that up because our lungs
Mhm.
are fucked up. We go to so many fires, and just the shit we're exposed to, even in our skin and the stuff we're breathing all the time. I mean, I was at the Palisades
Mhm.
fire and I was coughing up like
Mhm.
black loogies for like months. So
Mhm.
like, but the sea moss helped me excrete all that stuff.
Yeah, that's what people will notice who, of course, have been through those extreme cases and their lungs have been tired with some of those toxins. The sea moss will be really nice for detox. Like that's one of the biggest known benefits is that it really detoxes the mucus in the lungs. And so that's one of the many of the benefits of sea moss. You get the collagen, you get the minerals, you get the iodine, which is great for hormone regulation, and so food for the thyroid. And we all need extra support. We're very deficient in iodine. There's other minerals in here. I like to pair it up with silica. I find when I consume silica with sea moss or diatomaceous earth, as some will add to their foods, it really like almost accelerates the benefits that you feel with sea moss. It's just that extra mineral that helps enhance it, in my opinion. And so I like to pair silica with my sea moss, and I find that you will really notice the benefits while you're on it. But it's like your body is like a machine. You need to keep filling it up with gas and nourish it for you to be able to gain those benefits.
Yeah, I think you should definitely be in Vancouver and going to fire stations and selling your product there. I mean, it'd be
Mhm.
really helpful because uh, the detoxification thing, number one, and then like the mineralization, number two. And I think, I just had a call like a couple weeks ago with a firefighter who was from another area visiting LA, and he had like passed out. And so we were like, just like talking, and I
Mhm.
was like asking him, hey, like, do you take minerals? Like, how's your mineralization? Like, and he was like, I don't even know what that is. And I was like, okay, well, first of all, it's not electrolytes, it's different. It
Mhm.
has all those components inside the minerals, but your
Mhm.
mineralization is supporting your system. So you don't have these episodes like you just had right now, like passing out. So
Mhm.
like I think the education on some of this stuff needs to be, I think, we're kind of ramped up, especially for first responders. So,
Mhm.
what do you think would be like one of the best products for like a firefighter out of those three, like out of those three colors?
Yeah, so out of the colors, if you wanted to do more focus on the detoxing, definitely would go the green with the extra chlorella. My favorite, and I think everyone really gets to see the benefits of two different superfoods is our autoimmune blend. It's the
Mm,
lion's mane and sea moss 1-to-1. And so you can just see what sea moss does for you. If you're dealing with injury, like you mentioned, just some injury that is lingering and you sometimes will subtly feel that pain. If you support it with the extra hydration and the minerals, but then also the nerve support and the lion's mane, I think this one is a very good option to try out too. So definitely for first responders that are firefighters, I think these two would be a great fit.
yeah,
Mhm.
I mean, for I try to do the best I can to educate everyone at my station on stuff, and they think I'm nuts, like with some of the things. But it's crazy because I don't really take that many supplements. I really don't. And they assume that I'm taking all this shit, and I'm not. I definitely uh, CMOS is a staple in one of my things I do, and I think for us, a lot of the things too is hormone dysregulation. So
Mhm.
I do take this product. It's called a whole package. It's for testosterone. It's just beef liver
Okay.
dehydrated with
Yeah.
bovine testicle dehydrated.
Mhm.
And that has been tremendous for my testosterone levels. And I've even had a couple members tell me or ask me about testosterone and how to regulate that without taking TRT, which is, I think,
Mhm.
it's very harmful for someone because they're going to take that in their body. It gets used to that and stops making it organically. So this helped someone who was like bogged down with energy levels. His testosterone was at a really like a 200, and
Mhm.
after like 3 weeks of taking this supplement, like he had the best energy, extremely vital. His workouts were amazing, and then he had his like libido back, which like I think that was depressing for him when he
Wow,
couldn't
that's
like have
awesome.
his libido back. So these are all organic, and these are like things that just
Yeah.
kind of stimulate with just food and
Mhm.
nutrients.
Yeah, like, organ meats are really good. Um, I definitely think, like, the kidneys, the livers, like you said, it's you really just gotta look at what you wanna address within the body, and then Mother Nature has everything that we need. I just remember my mom would make, like, liver as a kid, and it was like, "Oh, I would never touch it." But then now when she makes it, I'm like, "Okay, put some liver aside for me," because I know that it's so good and nourishing, so I force myself to eat some organ meats when I get the opportunity to.
It definitely doesn't taste that great. I mean, we have a friend who owns a restaurant, and she's a really good chef, and she integrates a lot of animal based diet stuff. So she came up
Yeah.
with this shake, and it
Mhm.
was it's a liver shake. So it's like
Oh, wow.
you'd slice up liver, you put it in a blender with a ton of blueberries and honey, and that was it pretty much. I'm trying to remember the rest of the recipe. It was very simple, something like that, and it
Mhm.
tasted pretty damn good. But it had, does have like that taste of liver in it a little bit, but
Mhm.
over, if you're gonna try to ingest something that's really organic and something that's gonna give you that punch for the day, that was definitely that punch. But even going back to what you're saying about the lungs, and like we operate in cycles, and everything is cyclical as far as like the elementals on this planet and the way we operate. And so with Ayurvedic or Vedic medicine with Chinese medicine, we have to integrate the seasons. And so the season in we are in right now is operating off the element of metal, which is
Right.
the lungs. And you were talking about the lungs carrying grief, and that's one of the cycles. And the cycle of metal is about letting go. And grief is not necessarily associated with sorrow or sadness. It's actually associated with letting go. So the
Mhm.
lungs is actually integrating the idea of letting things go, letting things fall off, kind of like a bit of like a shedding process. Kind of, it's the same way you're looking at nature and watch trees just watch the leaves fall off. This is just a cycle that we are not separate from. We are actually integrated with the natural laws, but we seem to forget this fine tuning relationship with these seasons and the cycles of life. So this is a great opportunity to get some Irish sea moss. I'm sorry, I keep saying Irish sea
Yeah,
moss.
it's definitely known. But you're right, like, that we do go through seasons, and our body asks for different things, and I think it's really, great tool to be intuitive to that and cater as much as you can to it. Like, right now, you said the lungs, and so I've been working a lot on my lungs and detoxing, and so I go through seasons where I will, forget a day or I'll take a double the next following day. And so really just listening to your body is the best I've found for myself.
Amazing. I'm really honored to have you on this podcast platform, and to hear your story of especially something that's just taking you into a wheelchair. So it takes a lot of courage to do what you had done, and I really do honor and respect you for your life journey, and where it's taking you now, and you're helping other people. That's the biggest thing that I really admire.
Well, you as well. I'm so honored to be here too, and just being able to talk about my experience, talk about my tools. It's really just an exchange of information. And I love also hearing your background because I come from a teaching education background. I know it's not the same type of stress, but I really do um, really admire people who work alongside the community and really pour their heart into what they do. And so I definitely see that in you, and I really can't wait to hear more of your experience with our products and see how it impacts you and what you notice. And so thank you for having me, and please reach out if you have any questions for Survival Moss, and you can follow us online if you have any other comments.
Yeah, absolutely. And my mom was a teacher for like 17 years. So I definitely
Mhm.
know the stressors of being a teacher. And it takes a special person, especially your kindergarten teacher. I mean,
Mhm.
dealing with those little rascals like running around and just like doing what a 5-year-old or a 6-year-old would do takes a lot of patience. So highly respect you as well for being a teacher. And if anyone's interested, I'll definitely put everything in the description for Survival Moss. That's what it's called, right? Survival Moss,
Mhm.
and make sure that all your connections will be met, and then follow her on Instagram and so forth.
Mhm. Awesome. Well, thank you so much for having me, and I look forward to another chat.
Yeah. Thank you so much again for your time, and everyone who's listening. Thank you for checking this episode out, and I love you guys. Take care.
Bye.